I'm Andrew,
I'm Max.
And I'm Sarah.
and this is our preliminary presentation for SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. Yep.
So I'm going to start off by reminding us a bit of SeaWorld's long history, which started in 1959 in Tampa Bay with the opening of a garden at the Anheuser-Busch brewery. The history since then has been characterized by expansion. Initially, expansion focused on the opening of new parks all throughout the years up until about the 2000s. But since then, they've expanded in other ways by starting successful TV ventures and then recently going public. And that brings us to the point right now where SeaWorld has welcomed 22 million guests across all of its parks in 2014, and now faces a challenging but also opportunity-rich situation in 2016.
So, in over the 50 years of SeaWorld's history, the biggest scandal they've had is in 2013. This came with the release of the movie Blackfish, which has now aired on CNN, BBC, is on DVD, and is available on Netflix. Blackstone's chief head of private equity revealed to us that that the board did not think this would be a very big scandal. However, it turned out to be much bigger than anticipated. This was a result of PETA staging an intense advertising campaign, which eventually in 2014 led SeaWorld Orlando to take a break for repairs from their orca shows, and eventually this past February for SeaWorld to announce its end of orca breeding as a whole. This has caused nationwide attendance to drop, as well as SeaWorld revenues to drop. In 2013, with the release of Blackfish, SeaWorld's nationwide attendance dropped 4.3%, while their revenues dropped 3.9%. As of last year, both their attendance and their revenue has gone up. However, it is still much below its prior levels before the release of Blackfish. SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment's linchpin capability is that the fact they use marine mammals as entertainment. They do this through a variety of ways, through their marine mammal rescue efforts, marine mammal encounters located at their parks, as well as underwater-themed amusement park attractions, especially found at the SeaWorld flagship brand parks, as well as Discovery Cove, their higher-level park. In addition to this, they also have a diverse portfolio of amusement parks, including Busch Gardens and Sesame Street Palace, which all emphasize either animals and nature or underwater-themed attractions.
So the SeaWorld portfolio carries with it a variety of parks. First of all, there's the SeaWorld brand itself. SeaWorld is a branded house, which means the SeaWorld brand and park is the most important because it reflects on the SeaWorld house directly in title. It's a marine-themed educational amusement park featuring animal shows at its main attraction. Busch Gardens, on the other hand, was acquired from Anheuser-Busch upon the InBev deal where they sold off all non-core assets. Busch Gardens is an outdoor thrill ride laced amusement park with roller coasters known and set apart for its beautiful scenery, as it was voted among the most beautiful parks in the country. Discovery Cove is a different model from SeaWorld, though it is still marine themed. It creates a family experience with extremely strong marine education component that's highly personalized and hands-on, and has a much more exclusive feel to it than SeaWorld. Aquatica is another core park. It's a thrills-oriented, lower overhead water park offering water rides that's strategically placed next to SeaWorlds throughout the country. Finally, SeaWorld has licensed the Sesame Street intellectual property and created this and owns the Sesame Place Park in Pennsylvania, which offers both rides and water attractions based around the Sesame Street brand. So, the geographic presence of SeaWorld, as I touched on earlier, Aquaticas are strategically placed next to every SeaWorld park. So you have SeaWorld, which is far more education driven, next to Aquaticas, which are, while still water themed, more thrill based and have much lower overheads and cost of entry than SeaWorld. On the other hand, Busch Gardens, there's an adventure island, which is highly similar to Aquatica, placed next to it. With Sesame Place, it's standalone. But as you can see, SeaWorld really leverages clusters of amusement parks in key tourist areas.
So how does SeaWorld position itself versus its customers, but also within its own industry? It does this by offering values to customers in more than one way. The first is related to access. Viewing marine life is very expensive and difficult because it usually would require you to travel to see the marine life in its natural habitat in some kind of exotic place, pay for boat rental, and involve quite arduous procedures to actually get close to the animals themselves. SeaWorld is unique in offering its customers access to marine life up close in a budgetary or in a very cost-effective way. And it is the only park and the only place in the US where people can see marine life on a budget in a way that goes far beyond your local aquarium. The second is that compared to its industry competitors, SeaWorld offers a lot of value in terms of its pricing. A lot of parks such as Disney and Universal are very expensive, sometimes even costing more than $100 to see just on a day basis. SeaWorld leads in that respect in many of its local markets by offering a very competitive price for a single day of only $79 and even less under certain special promotions. So with this model, it attempts to capture an extra day from people who visit on a national or international level, and then also draw a strong visitor base from its locality. The specific Discovery Cove brand and park is positioned with regard to its exclusivity. Has a very low daily attendance cap compared to SeaWorld and the Busch Gardens other parks in the portfolio, at only 1,200, 1,300 people a day. But this also comes with a high price point. So they try to target people who are high net worth families who have more money, but also want a state-of-the-art marine experience that goes even beyond what SeaWorld, the traditional park, has to offer. This has resulted in an extremely high popularity with the people who visit the park itself, resulting in a #2 ranking worldwide in terms of customer reviews for all amusement parks, and offers an overall very exclusive experience. Unlike the other portfolio brands in the SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment portfolio, Busch Gardens has not a marine life focus, but focuses on land-based nature. When it started as a garden and an aviary in 1959, it was very much nature-focused and has maintained the feeling of its original environment since. Other places like Six Flags also offer thrills, while Busch Gardens offers a beautiful environment as well, and this really sets it apart from its peers and makes it an attractive place for families to come. So here's a more detailed value comparison between portfolio companies of SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment and its competitors. As we saw earlier, SeaWorld offers a lot of value to its customers, not only in price, but also in providing access to its customers. But here with a regard to price, we see that both the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens offerings have a very good price compared to its competitors, and fall way below Disney and Universal Studios, while Discovery Cove has an entirely different luxury product positioning that targets a high net worth segment. So the industry is segmented into tiers that relate to both the geographical location where the park draws its customers from, but also the length of stay that the visitor has at a typical park. SeaWorld itself is couched right in between the first tier and the second tier of the industry. In the first tier, you have parks that draw customers from an international but also a national base. People fly in, they'll stay at these parks, stay in their hotels, and visit for multiple days. These include both Disney Parks and Resorts and Universal Studios, classic examples of which are located in Orlando. In Tier 2, you have what we termed regional champions. Those include Six Flags, the lower end of the Six Flags portfolio, but also Busch Gardens. These are parks that draw their customer base from people who will travel all over a region just to get to this park, but will traditionally just stay for a single day. SeaWorld is right in between these with its value, with both its price point, but also with the fact that it is trying to get an extra day from those that draw customers from all over the world. And that kind of puts it right in between those two categories. Finally, it's important to note that the industry is quite consolidated. Top 4 players in the industry, of which SeaWorld is number 3, control the majority of the industry at 89.5% of yearly revenue.
On an industry level, the amusement park value chain is comprised of 3 levels. The first level is suppliers, and here we have both Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers. The majority of suppliers in the industry are Tier 2 suppliers. However, engineers who build rides and other attractions are Tier 1 suppliers. While parks such as Six Flags and Disney, the resort destination parks, must invest heavy capital into building new rides and attractions and attracting people to their parks, SeaWorld focuses on animals as their main attraction, therefore lowering the bargaining power of suppliers for SeaWorld specifically in the amusement park industry. SeaWorld tries to appeal to the end consumer, and what consumers look for when choosing an amusement park is based on location, admission price, the perceived quality of rides and attractions, and the atmosphere and cleanliness of the park. In addition, it is really important that each different amusement park has different intellectual property that draws consumers there. So for SeaWorld, the main concerns are the bargaining power of customers and competitive rivalry. SeaWorld generates 62% of its revenue from admission prices, while the industry total is 53% of revenue. Especially in the midst of the Blackfish scandal, SeaWorld has had to lower their prices and offer deals on Groupon and other internet sites. So it is very important that they keep their bargaining power high in terms of their relationships with customers. In addition, amusement park clusters and market consolidation creates very high competitive rivalry. So SeaWorld must continue to create value through positive brand correlation and comparable low price. The bargaining power of suppliers, as mentioned before, is very low, as is the threat of new entrants. There are extremely high fixed costs in starting amusement parks. The threat of substitute products is at a mid-level between low and high because of the many different choices of amusement parks. However, SeaWorld's unique intellectual property draws specific guests to their parks.
So some key park portfolio information specifically from SeaWorld itself. 62% of their revenue is earned on admissions. This is slightly higher than the industry standard. And so getting a lot of admissions revenue is extremely important to make sure that SeaWorld can meet its revenue goals. 22.4 million individuals attended SeaWorld in 2015, creating $1,368 million in revenue. 54% of guests to SeaWorld are families. Going off of families, resort destinations really aim to capture a higher share of percentage of families in that 52%. Families are extremely important in the amusement park industry itself. They're only 1/3 of the U.S. population, but make up over half of the visits to attractions. And I'm sure you can attest to the fact that you're more likely to spend money at an amusement park when you're with your family. And so, especially amusement park destinations, are trying to attract as many families as possible because they make up their core membership. So what do families look for? They look for an experience that has some togetherness, fun, variety, a unique experience, the ability to learn something new, the ability to see animals, new rides and exhibits, a new place that they've never been before, especially if it's discounted or at a special event. We believe that SeaWorld is in a unique position to deliver this experience to families and really become a resort destination because it combines the ability to see animals more than its competitors with the greater ability to educate using the animals and the research capabilities of the park and the company itself. So the most effective way of targeting families are through the mother and children and creating experiences that would appeal to them. 85% of travel decisions are made through the mother, but the mother is very likely to take everyone's interest into account, including her husband, and children. 70% of kids are given input into where to vacation. And 13% of parents claim the initial decision of where to vacation was made by their child. 37% of parents claim their child plays a major role in the ultimate vacation destination, and 39% of vacation destination negotiations include arbitration. So what we're really looking for when we're constructing this experience is an experience that can appeal to the entire family, because we're finding that it's where to vacation is a highly negotiated decision. And so if we're looking to become a resort destination, we really have to appeal to the whole family because of this important arbitration process. So going back to Blackfish now, because this is a major story, and the media has decided to make Blackfish into a major failure story for SeaWorld. They typically depicted the attendance graph you've seen on the bottom right. Clearly it's quite down, but when we talked to Joe Barata about this at Blackstone, who is still a major strategic stakeholder in the company, he had very strong words for us that the intellectual property and brand of SeaWorld was not heavily damaged by Blackfish and was actually never heavily damaged, and that the drop in attendance was actually from extremely tough competition in Orlando, particularly where the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios was released. So he claims, and Blackstone and the SeaWorld board still believe, that there's little damage that was done by the Blackfish documentary. However, when you dig deeper into the figures, SeaWorld stock was down significantly over the past 2 years since the release of Blackfish. And it's actually underperformed the S&P in the past year. So there is an issue with SeaWorld and an inability to grow. The real danger of this and the inability for the SeaWorld stock to beat the S&P and exceed investor expectations hasn't particularly been Blackfish itself, but instead has been an extremely stagnating revenue. As you can see, SeaWorld has not been able to grow revenues since 2010, and it's been extremely stagnant in an extremely growing amusement park category. So, SeaWorld is facing stagnating revenues and park visits. Increasing price or cutting cost, we believe, would simply be a short-term fix, but wouldn't be the long-term solution, as this would hurt long-term growth. So with that in mind, we decided to recommend a different strategy. Rather, we believe SeaWorld should construct borderless amusement parks. That's key to the SeaWorld value add and would both help its reputation and grow its revenue and customer base. SeaWorld is all about enjoying nature, and we believe that there's no better way to enjoy the natural environment than in its natural context, in the outdoors, and in some outside of the developed clusters that they've built in beautiful areas where you can leverage the nature. So, with that in mind, our first recommendation is to further take advantage of our built-out research capabilities to build an amusement park without borders experience where guests can enjoy nature in its proper context. And this would vary from region to region, with the central theme of using the research capabilities and branding around nature education to allow guests to enjoy the area surrounding clusters. SeaWorld has an established consumer base and an established reputation.
Secondly, we'll look to cut off the dependency of the SeaWorld +1 customer sourcing strategy that's in place right now by developing self-sustained resorts in SeaWorld park clusters that will aim to both increase the amount of time that a single customer stays in all of the SeaWorld portfolio parks in a single visit, and secondly, increase the amount of repeat visits by having people come back to hotels again and again.
And third, we would like to develop a theme park without borders as a SeaWorld cruise experience. using the SeaWorld brand name.
It's very important to note the SeaWorld research capabilities that have allowed them to create this really great marine educational experience that has allowed them to differentiate themselves as an amusement park for years. First of all, the SeaWorld Entertainment itself in all of its parks has over 12,000 animals cared for and researched in captivity by means of the SeaWorld Research and Rescue Foundation. The group of scientists really positioned to care for and learn more about the creatures that SeaWorld has under its management, many for its guests to enjoy. They've also deployed over $11 million in conservation grants toward research via the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens Conservation Fund. And finally, really in the quintessential manner of combining entertainment with education, they launched a television show to educate families about natural environment and exotic animals in a show called Wildlife Docs, which has been an extremely successful television show and an extremely family-friendly time slot in ABC's prime time schedule. It's now renewed through 2018, showing that this show has been extremely successful, and people love the combination of education, entertainment, and really kind of an ecological theme. So with that in mind, we believe that SeaWorld can continue to build out its clusters positioned in extremely beautiful environments by taking advantage of the beautiful environment around them combined with the research capabilities. To give you an example, we have an extremely built out cluster in San Diego. You can really leverage the marine biology research capabilities in the area of whale tourist education by offering whale watching tours, and this would tap into a $1 billion industry. You can create a branded marine-themed surfing experience in San Diego for guests, which has become increasingly affluent and family-friendly over the past decade, which would tap into a $24 million industry in San Diego alone. Finally, you could develop snorkeling experiences through your SeaWorld cluster that could become highly educational, have an ecological theme that could really differentiate itself by leveraging the SeaWorld brand itself, which is synonymous with marine education, to create another additional family-friendly experience. Even in Williamsburg, which might not immediately come to mind, SeaWorld operates an extremely successful cluster with Busch Gardens. You have the opportunity here as one of the top fishing destinations in the country to create a great fishing experience for guests, build out research capabilities to understand the best way to lead and educate people on this fishing experience. In addition, you can make nature a greater component of Busch Gardens Williamsburg through greater education and signage towards the natural species and plant life that is in Busch Gardens, one of the most beautiful parks in the country that could be better communicated to guests. So with all of these, we have really good penetration strategy to help these experiences not only become differentiated and surround guests with the SeaWorld brand for longer, but allow us to grow our bottom line while doing it. And how that would work is, first, we would allow one local ecotourism business to license the SeaWorld branding and use the SeaWorld research capabilities to make their craft better than its peers. For example, in the whale watching category, we could put our whale watching marine biologists to work to construct the best whale watching tour possible. This would allow the business that we partner with to become extremely differentiated from its peers. They would also be allowed to use the SeaWorld licensing and brand to bring in customers, because customers immediately know and trust the SeaWorld brand. Then with our exit strategy with this partnership, and every successful partnership has an exit strategy, in 8 to 10 years, we would look to purchase the fixed assets and control the tour itself, kind of rolling up the different industries around the SeaWorld brand, the way that we've been able to with animals in captivity over the past 30 years, but instead creating a borderless nature experience that I think would really resonate with our guests as ecotourism is becoming ever more popular. Here's a case study where I think you can better imagine this approach. I did some research into the San Diego surfing industry and found Pacific Surf School as a perfect candidate for this partnership. So they have a heavy dependence on adolescent ridership as they operate a lot of summer camps. However, they're a tertiary player in the San Diego surfing industry, really dominated by two major players. And so if SeaWorld were to step in, allow them to license intellectual property, and create a better tour using our research capabilities, which has not really been done in the San Diego surfing industry, we do believe that we can create a better surfing lesson and experience. Over time, this would allow Pacific Surf School to grow to become maybe a primary or secondary player in the industry, and we can fold this into an eventual SeaWorld resort experience for our guests, capturing more revenue from more guests. So that's the idea with all of the industries that I had mentioned on the previous slide. So here are some advantages and why we really believe in this without borders model. So you would be generating positive brand equity through allowing guests to enjoy nature-driven intellectual property experiences that they know and love with the SeaWorld brand. You would create direct revenue increases in phase 2 directly from purchasing these fixed assets and operating these experiences ourselves. But phase 1 would also provide a small revenue increase through longer guest stays to SeaWorld resorts and parks, as well as an increase in brand equity through constantly surrounding guests by the SeaWorld brand. This would allow us also to allow guests to see animals in their natural context. And SeaWorld has gotten bad press for not doing that, but in the future, allowing guests to take advantage of this would possibly build out the SeaWorld brand and separate itself from the idea that SeaWorld only keeps animals in captivity.
As I noted earlier in our proposal, SeaWorld finds itself stuck between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 of its industry. While drawing international and national visitors from Tier 1 parks such as Disney and Universal, it also relies on super-regional visitors to a large extent, as we saw on that map that I presented earlier, with a shorter average customer duration of stay than both Disney and Universal in Tier 1, it is lagging behind. So unlike other Tier 2 regional parks, SeaWorld has clusters of multiple parks in single locations in Orlando, San Antonio, and San Diego. These offer people enough things to visit for multiple days. Nevertheless, SeaWorld is currently experiencing mostly single-day visits as people don't take advantage of the possibility of visiting all the places that SeaWorld has to offer in a single cluster in multiple days. This limits its current revenue per customer because people are not spending extended periods of time in the parks. SeaWorld is not leveraging the fact that they have clusters of multiple parks in Orlando and these other locations for that reason. In order to break into the top tier of resorts and become a destination that people travel to nationally and also internationally potentially, you need to incentivize people to visit all the SeaWorld parks and not just one in a single holiday. To this end, they need to make it more convenient and advantageous to visit all the places at the same time. To this end, we propose to expand the current Discovery Cove Park in Orlando with a hotel with approximately 300 rooms in order to create the Discovery Cove Marine Resort. The customer base that currently visits Discovery Cove has a high net worth and a high disposable income. This customer group would therefore be able to visit all 3 parks without any issue, while thereby staying in parks for a longer period of time, increasing the amount of revenue that we get per customer while they visit, and also opens the possibility of repeat visits because the hotel that will be conveniently located on the Discovery Cove property and will not require customers to travel any kind of distance to get to their desired entertainment. With regards to the rationale as to why this would work, please refer to the graph that is on the slide. It shows the competitive advantage of having a theme park hotel versus a city hotel. As you can see, the theme park hotels that are marked in red all feature higher occupancy rates than city hotels or even very close by non-park hotels. This is due to the convenience that people value very highly when they're on holidays. And furthermore, people in theme parks, people who are staying in theme park hotels will pay significantly higher rates than people who will stay in city hotels for this convenience. So you can also get a higher revenue than a city hotel could through this offering. In the end, this proposal will result in a higher average duration of stay, as I just mentioned, and a higher amount of repeat visits, which will increase the top line and the bottom line of SeaWorld.
So our third proposal is an underwater theme park without borders. And we really feel like this allows SeaWorld to expand on the underwater marine life theme of their intellectual property and letting guests have the same experience they would have at an amusement park in a natural environment, which is especially important in the midst of the Blackfish scandal that has occurred in the past 2 years. The cruising industry is a growing industry, and in 2014 it had 22.1 million passengers worldwide. 62% of these passengers are repeated cruisers, which means that cruise lines look towards sponsoring themed cruises to attract these repeat customers. In addition, the average money spent per person on their last cruise was $2,200, which is exponentially larger than the average amount spent a day at an amusement park. So our proposal is to partner with an existing cruise line. This is mutually beneficial not only for the SeaWorld brand, but also for the cruise line itself. It would eliminate high fixed startup costs such as the ship, the staff, and the marketing to fill the boat each week. Additionally, we feel that partnering with a cruise line is the first step in eventually creating our own cruise line if the partnership works out. So here we take a look at the top cruise lines in the industry. Each of these top cruise lines uses different branded intellectual property to draw in new audiences. For example, Carnival has a licensing agreement with Dr. Seuss, Royal Caribbean has a licensing agreement with DreamWorks, and Disney uses their own intellectual property to draw customers in. Disney's expansion story into the cruise line industry is the most similar expansion story that we have found that we propose for SeaWorld. So Disney started in 1985 when they originally partnered with Premier Cruise Lines. And 13 years later, they decided to launch their own line. Currently, they have 4 ships, with 2 ships to join the fleet in 2021 and 2023, as well as Castaway Cay down in the Bahamas, which is their own unique port. Our proposal, after looking at all of these cruise lines, is to partner with Norwegian Cruise Lines. In 2010, Norwegian Cruise Lines entered into a licensing agreement with Nickelodeon to attract the younger generation of customers. Activities on their ship included Dora's dance party from Dora the Explorer, character interactions, crafts, and shows with other characters. However, in 2015, the agreement was terminated, and it was eventually phased out by January of this year. Norwegian Cruise Line has publicly expressed their determination to continue to emphasize family-friendly entertainment, and they have only predicted a minimum loss because the Nickelodeon brand isn't as strong as the Disney or DreamWorks brand used by other cruise lines. However, we feel that partnering with SeaWorld would create a mutually beneficial partnership to leverage the SeaWorld brand name as well as the Norwegian Cruise Line ships and other fixed assets necessary to start a cruise line. SeaWorld appeals to kids and adults alike, and the emphasis on nature and animal experiences is something for all ages. This licensing agreement would allow SeaWorld to gain from both the base fare as well as the excursions on Norwegian Cruise Lines. It would also lead to increased brand awareness through surrounding of the SeaWorld brand on a 4 to 7 day cruise, as well as increased customer lifetime value for the SeaWorld brand itself, as we can partner the Norwegian Cruise Lines with trips to the SeaWorld amusement parks at their respective ports.
So these plans together will grow revenue, and that's our main goal. As we showed you with our slide showing the areas for improvement, we believe that stagnant revenues have really been SeaWorld's main problem and what's been driving down the stock price. So we would project that these strategies combined will both grow short-term and long-term revenues, and we believe that revenues will consistently increase going forward as SeaWorld begins to gain traction with each of these strategies, especially the resort and the cruise line. So in 2016 and 2017, we would project 3% revenue growth using these strategies. However, things like a resort and a cruise line take time to really gain steam, and so we believe that the momentum that we would gain in 2016 and 2017 would lead to 5% revenue increases in 2018, 2019, and 2020. This would bring revenue to a major high of 1,680 million. Revenue has never been close to that for SeaWorld Entertainment in the past, and this would combine to a 4.2% revenue compound annual growth rate. This would be a fantastic achievement for us because not only would it show growth, it would show stability, which is something that SeaWorld has not shown in a while. And we believe that showing stability and the ability to generate good cash flows would allow investors, would inspire investor confidence in SeaWorld. So that's our strategy, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.